Okay, good evening, everyone. Council met in closed session. I will now look to our deputy clerk to provide the report.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to our viewing public, council met in closed session and received information and provided direction subject to solicitor-client privilege respecting a litigation matter.
Thank you. I'll now ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, please note that these meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. Our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, March 19th at 6:30 p.m. Are there any announcements or remarks from members of council? Okay, seeing none, moving to the adoption of the previous council minutes. Are there any comments, corrections for the draft minutes from the meetings listed on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I have a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 30th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Van Fleet? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to the public meeting. In accordance with the Planning Act, a public meeting is held for applicants to present information regarding the proposed applications to the public and council. Council will also receive comments from the public. Staff will not make a recommendation, and council will not make a decision on the proposed applications at this evening's public meeting. A planning report will be brought forward by staff and considered by council at a later date. As a member of the public, you are welcome to request to be notified of any future meetings respecting the proposed applications. Please provide your contact information on the sign-in sheet located at the back of council chambers. Please be advised that the sign-in information will form part of the public record for these applications. I will now ask the Manager of Community and Development Services to provide details on the purpose of the proposed applications and any written comments received.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, we're holding our statutory public meeting for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications submitted by MHBC Planning Limited on behalf of Waterford Sand and Gravel Limited to facilitate an expansion to the Law Quarry. The subject lands are legally described as part of lots 6 and 7, concession 2, and part of road allowance between lots 5 and 6, concession 2, lying north of Highway 3, between Grable Road and Biederman Road, as shown here. The Law Quarry expansion area proposes a license area of 72.3 hectares with approximately 51.2 hectares proposed for extraction. The subject property has been mainly in agricultural production and currently contains a single detached dwelling with accessory buildings that are to be decommissioned. The surrounding land uses are rural in nature and include residential to the south along Highway 3 and west along Grable Roads, the existing extractive quarry to the east, and environmental protection lands to the north, forming part of the bog. The current official plan designation is rural area, possible extractive industrial, and environmental protection area. The proposed official plan amendment would change the designation to simply extractive industrial. The current zoning bylaw identifies the property as rural, A4, with environmental protection overlay. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to change the zoning to extractive industrial, M2-2, to permit a quarry, including processing and related plant and operational facilities for the crushing, screening, and washing of aggregate material and aggregate stockpiling, and outside storage of goods and materials where such use is ancillary and incidental to a permitted aggregate operation use otherwise specified. A number of studies and documents were submitted in support of the applications. Due to the complexity of these studies, they are available for review on our website or through the region's website at these links. These studies are currently under technical review and will be addressed through a future planning staff report. Concurrent applications. In addition to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, an application for a regional official plan amendment has also been submitted to the Niagara region. That application proposes text and schedule changes to add specific lands to Section 13 for site-specific policies of the regional official plan in order to facilitate the expansion. The township and regional official plan amendments will be processed concurrently. Please note that the region is retaining the approval authority for the local official plan amendment in this case. An application for a Category 2 below water quarry Class A license has also been submitted to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry under the Aggregate Resources Act. The Ministry of Natural Resources is the approval authority for the ARA license, which cannot be granted until the municipal planning approvals are in place. A joint agency review team has been formed, and regional, NPCA, and township staff are working together to review the applications concurrently. Next steps include this public consultation. In accordance with the Planning Act, a notice of complete application was mailed to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject property on August 9th, 2022. A notice of statutory public meeting was mailed to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject property on January 30th, 2024, and a public notice sign was posted on the subject lands. The notice, along with the submitted studies, are also posted on the township's website. The application was circulated to external agencies and internal departments for review with a comment deadline of February 29th, 2024. To date, there have been no written comments from the public received regarding this public meeting. The Region of Niagara has held their statutory public meeting on February 7th. Staff will continue to collect and review comments from the public and agencies, and ongoing review with the applications with the regional staff through the JART to address any outstanding issues in order to finalize the township comments for this JART report. Staff will then prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration. So thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to provide any comments regarding their application?
Okay, I'll try not to mess it up. Can we go to full screen? There we go, perfect, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Grant, council and staff. My name is Caitlin Port. I'm a registered professional planner with MHBC Planning, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Waterford Sand and Gravel. I'm joined by Frank, Jason, and Ed as well from Waterford Sand and Gravel, and we're here to present to you information on the Township Official Plan Amendment for the proposed extension to the Law Crushed Stone Quarry. So I want to provide a little bit of background information on the existing quarry first. The existing Law Crushed Stone Quarry began operations in the 1930s and has served the construction industry for more than 80 years. It's a long-standing and established use in this municipality. The existing quarry has undergone 2 prior eastward extensions in the past, with the last occurring around 2007. The existing quarry is very rapidly nearing depletion with only very minimal reserves remaining. And the proposed westward quarry extension is now needed to continue to meet the ongoing high demand for aggregate resources in the region of Niagara to support critical housing and infrastructure projects. The lands proposed for the westward extension are currently in a predominantly agricultural condition, but they are not prime agricultural land. All significant natural heritage features will be avoided and protected, including the Wainfleet Bog, PSW, located to the north. All significant cultural heritage features will also be conserved in accordance with provincial requirements. There will be no change to the current annual tonnage, quarry hours of operation, trucking patterns, or site operations as a result of this quarry extension. Biederman Road is also proposed to be included within the licensed area for the quarry extension. And as Lindsay mentioned, both provincial and municipal approvals are required. So there's two processes we're undertaking right now. Applications were submitted concurrently for both the Aggregate Resources Act license application, as well as the Planning Act applications, which include a regional official plan amendment, a township official plan amendment, and a township zoning bylaw amendment. So the ARA process, I've included a high-level overview on the left-hand side of the slide, and then the Planning Act, again, a high-level overview on the right-hand side of the slide. And you can see that we've been working through the process, and we're now at the public meeting component. As Lindsay also mentioned, the region is coordinating the JART review process for this quarry application, and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, they're also reviewing the license application through the ARA application process. We've completed the majority of the public and agency consultation, but we're continuing to respond to comments and making revisions to the application materials. So I wanted to provide just a high-level overview of the quarry extension. The existing quarry is located to the east, so it's a little bit off the slide here. The quarry extension will be operated in 5 sequential extraction phases, starting in the northwest corner in phase 1A, and proceed in a generally westerly and then southerly direction. As I mentioned, the hours of the operation will be the same as the existing quarry, which are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The quarry extension, just like the existing quarry, will include acoustical and screening berms, localized shielding around equipment restrictions, and other measures to mitigate noise. The quarry will also implement setbacks and buffers from environmental features located to the north. We've implemented long-term avoidance and protection strategies for the archaeological sites that are located on the property, and you can see those are located in these, it's hard to see the colors, but they're blue and pink blobs, and we're referring to those as islands. And we anticipate that the lifespan of the quarry extension will be about 38 years. Of course, that's highly dependent on market demand. So if there's a greater market demand, the quarry lifespan will be less. If there's a bit of a slow in the market demand, then the quarry may be a little bit longer. The progressive and final rehabilitation for the quarry extension will look very similar to the existing quarry. The final rehabilitation will be a lake with several islands, and it will be connected to the existing quarry. We're also looking to create shallow littoral areas, some different slope treatments, including vertical faces, specialized habitat creation, and all those features will be located in the north end of the quarry because that's the area that's located closest to the Wainfleet Bog PSW. So those environmental features will then be contiguous. We're also looking to do extensive planting and seeding, specifically with native non-invasive species, and that's to create forest and as well as grassland ecological communities. So in terms of the public consultation activities, there was an in-person public information session held in December 2022 that was held under the Aggregate Resources Act, and we had about a dozen members of the public in attendance at that session. There's also been notice signs posted on this property since November 2022, and they've remained up the entire time. They're still posted today. There was also a newspaper notice posted in November 2022 for the Aggregate Resources Act license application. Letters were sent to all of the adjacent landowners that are located within 120 meters of the quarry extension license boundaries. To date, we haven't received any public comments under the ARA license application. There was also an Environmental Registry of Ontario posting, and we didn't receive any comments under that. All of the reports and studies have been available on the Waterford Sand and Gravel website since this application went live in the fall of 2022. So if you want to take a look at those reports, I would encourage you to do so. And then we have done some additional consultation with one neighbor regarding some concerns that they had regarding water quality in their well. In terms of the agency review process, I think Lindsay covered this pretty well. We've been working closely with the region of Niagara with the Joint Agency Review Team, JART process. We did receive comprehensive comments from JART in January 2022, and we provided our project team's comprehensive response to those comments in December. Actually, I think it was in the summer. We did receive then a second round of comments of JART, and we're just looking to provide our comments back to those comments shortly. So that's just a long way of saying we're nearing the end of the JART process. There's still a few outstanding issues that we're working to resolve, making changes to the application as we go. The MNRF and the MECP also provided technical comments on the Aggregate Resources Act license application, and we've integrated their comments into revisions to the application in the form of an updated site plan. We've also been working closely with the local Indigenous communities, specifically the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River, and then the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Chiefs Council. We've met with representatives from the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and Six Nations of the Grand River, and all three Indigenous communities have been highly involved in the archaeological work on site. Six Nations of the Grand River has initiated their own peer review, and we did provide a response to their peer review comments in December. So in terms of next steps, as I mentioned, we're looking to resolve and respond to all of the outstanding JART comments and hoping to do that in the next month or so. We're still working with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to address any of their remaining and outstanding comments on the site plan and hydrogeology. We're working with the municipality to finalize the purchase and closure of Biederman Road in accordance with the Municipal Act requirements. And then once all that's done, we'll return to Regional Council for a decision on the ROPA application, and then return to this council chambers here for a decision on the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. And then once all those, once all the planning decisions are made, we can then request that the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry make a decision on the license application. But as Lindsay mentioned, we cannot have a decision made on the license application until the designation and zoning is in place. And that's it. Thank you very much. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any members of council that have any questions or comments regarding the proposed applications? No? No? Seeing none? All right. Thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to provide comment on the proposed applications? Okay. Seeing none? Okay. Seeing that there are no further comments, I will now ask Ms. Earle to review the next steps.
Thank you. A planning recommendation report regarding a complete review of the applications will be brought forward by staff and considered by council at a later date. Regarding public appeal rights, if a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Wainfleet regarding the proposed applications before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Wainfleet to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting and or make written submissions to the Township of Wainfleet regarding the proposed applications before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. That concludes the public meeting for the proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment. If you wish to be notified of the decision of council regarding the proposed application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the township. So moving on to delegations, we have no delegations this evening. Going right into the consent agenda, we have 5 items listed on the consent agenda this evening. Those items are ASR 003 2024, respecting the 2023 remuneration report, BSR 001 2024, respecting the 2023 year-end building summary, PWSR 001 2024, respecting the chiller and compressor, PWSR 002 2024, respecting the engineering services, and PWSR 003 2024, respecting road rehabilitation. Are there any items that council wishes to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Councilor Gilmore?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to discuss PWSR 002, please.
Okay. So I'll open the floor up to I'll open the floor to discussion.
Okay, thank you. Just a question, Richard. When they do the engineering, are we going to address the water problem? At the same time, I realize it's a drainage matter, but I'm sure it's going to come up because Napoleon is completely in the floodplain and Lee floods every time over the road. Not every time, but a lot of the time over the road. So I just wonder how far we're going to take that and going forward to resolve that.
Through your worship to Councillor Gilmore, yes, that's part of the reason why we're hiring a professional engineering firm is to take all those things into consideration, as well as we will be sharing the drainage report for that drain to make sure that obviously that any additional flows is capability of going to where it's supposed to go. But we will be, the reason why we've expanded this a little bit more to encompass everything within the right-of-way is to ensure that we capture everything that could potentially flood any properties as well.
And just one other question. Is the work then anticipated to be done next year in 2025 or 6?
Through your worship to Councillor Gilmore, the plan is to have all the engineering performed and a set of tender specifications ready to go. But obviously, it'll be depend on future budgets, and we'll be bringing that forth to council for approvals at that time. But we will have preliminary cost estimates when we do the budget process.
Any other discussion on any items? No, seeing none, okay. So then I have a motion that the following items be received and that the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. ASR 003 2024, respecting the 2023 remuneration report. BSR 001 2024, respecting the 2023 year-end building summary. PWSR 001 2024, respecting the chiller and compressor. PWSR 002 2024, respecting the engineering services. And PWSR 003 2024, respecting road rehabilitation. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Gilmore? Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're going to move into staff reports and recommendations. Emergency management staff reports, EMSR 001 2024, respecting the solar eclipse planning. Chief Alcock, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My report and presentation before you this evening is in regards to the total solar eclipse that is scheduled to occur on April 8th, 2024. As I've just said, a solar eclipse may occur when the moon covers the sun. This results in the moon casting a shadow over the earth. A total eclipse is when the entire sun is blocked out, at which point a totality occurs. Wainfleet and the shores of Lake Erie will be within the prime viewing areas known as the Path of Totality. And you can see on the map before you, the path of totality is a narrow path approximately 100 to 115 kilometers wide, where the sun appears to have been completely covered for a short period of time. Given that the township is within the path of totality, and the fact that there's been some growing interest in the media and social media coverage of the event, staff and other allied agencies have been working in response plans for the various potential impacts that may occur to both the township's residents, businesses, as well as infrastructure and operations. Township staff have been working on these groups, which include provincial and regional working groups, emergency response groups, communications, social services, and transportation. In addition, we've been meeting with the NPCA, who's listed and opened up their properties within Wainfleet for viewers to come, stay, and watch the eclipse. With an unknown number of visitors coming to the area to view the eclipse, the township's emergency control group has developed a series of considerations that we need to be aware of in planning for this event. Some of these concerns involve traffic congestion, emergency response capabilities, sufficient accommodations, and during our short-term rental licensing, we've actually received notice that we have individuals coming from the United Kingdom to stay the day of to view the eclipse. So it is one of those things that is it's well known, and we are expecting lots of people in our area the day of. Other areas of consideration include the impact to local businesses and our communications networks. The anticipation is that high volumes of visitors and users may overwhelm local networks, which could potentially result in disruptions or system failures, which would also have the impact of the township's ability to operate and respond to requests for services. Additionally, critical infrastructure such as food, fuel, and water may be impacted by increased consumption and delivery delays, impacts to the healthcare system with an influx of visitors. Also, there's the increased risk of eye injuries due to people attempting to improperly view the eclipse. And then lastly, we have there unplanned or unorganized events which result in an increased demand for first aid, security, or facilities. Also, schools have declared that day a PA day, so we will have children at home. This may impact parents' abilities to work. Also, the fact that we'll have many people requiring to stay at home or find alternative childcare arrangements. Lastly, our control group is prepared to open the operations center to monitor and manage any events that develop. Township staff are also preparing public safety messaging to be issued through the township's website and social media platforms. Temporary facilities will also be placed in high-known traffic areas such as Reeves Bay, Augustine Beach, Fire Station 3, the Regional Beach, and the Township complex facilities. Also, to ensure emergency access, roadside parking will be restricted in high-density, narrow roadways, which will be closed to visitors, and barricades will be placed to allow residents-only access. Staff have identified areas of concern within the township, and in consultation with Niagara Region Police and other allied agencies, have developed temporary special events parking and road closure bylaw attached to this report and included in the agenda for your consideration. Myself and the members of the Emergency Control Group are open to discussions or questions.
Thank you. So I have a motion that the report EMSR 001-2024 respecting the solar eclipse planning be received, and that staff continue to coordinate with all levels of government and other agencies to ensure the effective management of municipal operations and public safety before, during, and after the event, and that the draft special events parking bylaw appended to this report be presented to council for adoption. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor Van Fleet? Councilor Anderson, any discussion? Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. Chief Alcotter, have we considered using the electronic notice board out front here about put your glasses on, please, or don't look up without putting your glasses on? Or are we going to use that board as people? There'll be a lot of traffic come down number 3.
Yes, absolutely. All through you, Mr. Mayor, all messaging, social media platforms, our website, whatever we have available to us, even our standalone signs at our fire stations will be used.
And through you, Mayor, if I may continue, do we have enough roadblock equipment to prohibit traffic going down a lot of road closures? Richard?
Through your worship to Councillor Anderson, yes, we have done an inventory. We are actually purchasing a few other incidental items that we need. including some additional no parking signs, et cetera. But it's, we're all set, ready to go for the volume. The unfortunate part, it's like every other time we close the road. You know, people still like to move things and go around them anyways, but we will do everything we can to minimize the traffic in those areas so the residents aren't impacted.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding? Seeing none? Okay, then I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to the planning staff reports, PSR 00X 2024, respecting the Bell Meadows subdivision. Ms. Evans, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this report provides a review of the applicable planning policies as it relates to the draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications for 32035 Bell Road, also known as Bell Meadows subdivision. Those applications are proposing to create 10 residential lots with some blocks for a public road, water for firefighting supply, and stormwater management. And then a site-specific residential R1-360 zone to implement site-specific frontage, setback, and height requirements. So it's my opinion that the applications meet the applicable provincial, regional, and township planning policies, and I have recommended that the draft plan of subdivision be approved, granted, subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix B of the report. And then bylaw 006/2024 regarding the zoning has been placed on the agenda for this evening for adoption.
Thank you. So I have a motion that planning staff report PSR 001/2024 be received and that the draft plan of subdivision application P01/2023W for the lands described as part road allowance between lots 19 and 20 concession 3 and part of lots 19 and 20 concession 3 Township of Wainfleet be approved for the reasons outlined in this report and subject to the conditions of draft approval in Appendix B, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application Z06/2023W for the lands described as part road allowance between lots 19 and 20, concession 3, and part lot of lots 19 and 20, concession 3, Township of Wainfleet be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted, and that the applications be deemed to be consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2020 and other matters of provincial interest. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McCullen, Councilor Gilmore, any discussion? Councilor McCullen, go ahead.
I'd like to see this get deferred. I have concerns. The setback of 10 meters to the front of the house. I know staff has said we can put the septic beds in the back, but it's the backyards that are closest to the places where people are concerned about contaminating their ponds, contaminating their wells. The other thing, we only have a 3-meter setback on the side of the house. It's 10 feet. If you put your septic bed in the backyard, you barely have enough room to get a sucker truck back there to clean your tank every 4 years or 5 years, depending on how you do it. I would propose that the setback be somewhere between 75 and 100 meters, and the septic beds go in the front of the house. If you deal with regional Niagara, and I know none of us are big fans of regional Niagara, but there is a reason they put the septic beds in the front of all the houses now, is because if your septic bed blows out and it's in your backyard, you don't rush to fix it. If it blows out and it's in your front yard, everybody sees it every day. They fix them. It's easier to get in there with a sucker truck to clean them. And the same way you have to have 50 feet between the edge of your septic bed or your tank, if it's pushed behind that, to your cistern. So how are you going to get water delivered if you have this little short yard and your septic is there? You're like, it just doesn't work. It should be, septic is in the front yard. There's a reason they do that. You can get in there. There's nothing in your way. I had this conversation earlier today with staff. I told them I was going to oppose it or ask for a deferral till we can get something figured out. I know last council meeting, my colleague over there asked that we not have the mounds in the front. or the mounds on the septics, right? So you have to, because we don't have the perk times. The septic bed is 30-plus loads, triaxle loads of sand, and roughly 4 triaxle loads of clear stone. They have to be elevated so that it goes down, it goes in. Your new tank has to have a pump in it with electricity on it. How are you going to take all that and fix it in your backyard? It should be in the front. Like I said, there's a reason the region went to it. It wasn't because they didn't like them in the back. It's because they knew what happened. People didn't fix them. You're back closer to the contamination. The backyard probably drains into a swale back there that gets closer to these people's wells, ponds for water. We have to look at this. I don't know why the developer wants them 10, 30 feet away, because he doesn't want to pay for stone to put in the driveway. There's lots of stone around here. Everybody sells it. Pay for it and pay for it and give the guy a decent front lawn. And we don't have septic beds in the backyards. You put the septic bed in the backyard, first thing somebody comes along, they want a pool in. You can't do septic beds in there. They're going to want to come in like everywhere else and every other place we have. They want to put a barn in the back. They want to do that. You can't get in there because the septic's in the way. Like, it just, we have a chance to make this right, and we only have one chance. So let's try and do it, is the way I look at it. So I'm going to ask that it gets deferred till we get this straightened out.
Before going on to our seconder, does Ms. Ivins want to make a comment regarding Mr. McClellan's comments?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I have spoken with Councillor McClellan about this. So the Ontario Building Code is what governs where septics can go. And that's setbacks to property lines, to structures, to water sources like cisterns and ponds. So there's no code reference that says that they have to be in the front yard. And so while it may be the councillor's preference to have these systems located in the front yard, if someone came in for a building permit for a septic, we have no legal mechanism to refuse the location if it complies with the minimum standards of the building code. So it is not, it's not best practice to implement anything other than what's required by the building code. Each lot will be reviewed at the building permit stage to make sure that those minimum clearances are being met. And through the conditions of draft approval, we've also requested additional review with respect to some of the concerns that we heard from the public at the meeting with regards to impact to the water that's being used for those adjacent properties. So from our perspective, or from staff's perspectives, the conditions of draft approval would kind of address some of those concerns, and we'll have a greater ability to review some more detailed information on that. And like I said, there is no legal mechanism for us to make it mandatory for these systems to be in the front yard. There's just one other note that I do want to make in terms of Councillor McClellan's comments regarding a deferral. As Council is aware, there are some shortened timelines for Planning Act decisions as a result of some of the changes that the province has made to the Planning Act. And so I just caution Council that deferral of consideration of this application would put us in a state where we're not complying with those timelines under the Planning Act. So that could potentially result in some refund of application fees and obviously not being in compliance with provincial legislation. So I just want to caution Council on that with respect to a deferral.
Councillor, would you like to make a motion for deferral still?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment back on that.
Yeah, of course.
Building standards are the minimum that they can ask. Lindsay, Sarah just said that. They're the bare minimum. If, in somebody's wisdom, long before any of us were sitting here, the region did look after the septics in all of Niagara. Was somewhere in council here, they decided they were smarter than the region and we were going to take over them and look after them. If they were going to the region, they would be in the front yard because the region would insist on it. But, yeah, I'd like to make the motion to defer because I think the setback is too short.
Can I get a seconder? Councillor Van Fleet, any discussion? Oh. Okay. We need a specific date for the deferral, deferred back to next council meeting? Come back with a report?
sure.
Is that what you like? Okay. You okay with that, Secretary? Yep. Okay. Councilor Anderson, you have a comment? Oh, I apologize. There is no comments allowed on the deferral. So I will just call the question of all in favor. Opposed? Okay, so that is defeated. Moving on to Public Works Staff Reports, PWSR 004-2024, respecting the EV charging station opportunity. Mr. Nam, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through yourself to members of council.
I apologize. I skipped a step here. Give me 1 second. I apologize. So we're going to go back to the original motion. I'm just going to reread it just so everybody knows. So I have a motion that Planning Staff Report PSR 001-2024 be received and that draft plan of subdivision application P01-2023W for the lands described as part road allowance between lots 19 and 20, concession 3, and part of lots 19 and 20, concession 3, Township of Wainfleet, be approved for the reasons outlined in this report and subject to the conditions of draft approval in Appendix B, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application Z06-2023W for the lands described as part road allowance between lots 19 and 20, concession 3, and part of lots 19 and 20, concession 3, Township of Wainfleet be approved for the reasons outlined in this report, and the zoning bylaw amendment attached to Appendix C be adopted, and that the applications be deemed consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020 and other matters of provincial interest. I can skip the mover and seconder because we've already, yeah, it's already been moved. So from that, we will just call the question of all in favor. Okay, opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we're going to go back to the PSRW 004-2024, respecting the EV charging station opportunity. Mr. Nan, could you please provide a brief overview of your report?
Thank you, Your Worship, through yourself to members of council. The Township of Wainfleet was presented with an opportunity by Realterm Energy, which, as some of the council may remember, were the instrumental in assisting the township in our street light LED transformation across the entire township. The initiative is backed by Charged for Change Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, which is sponsored by Earth Day Canada. And this covers 100% of the project costs up to a maximum of $125,000. It requires a minimum of 4 charging heads as part of the application process. And the application deadline is February 22nd, which is Thursday. One of the key advantages of partnering with RTE is they have a vendor approach, ensuring that similar to what we've done in purchasing with the national programs, is they've done some market research on the various EV charging systems, and they've selected the one that's in the report in front of you. Their end-to-end service also includes software, network capabilities, ongoing maintenance, and support. The locations that we're anticipating for the charging stations, because we have to put 4 in, we were going to put 1 in the front of Town Hall, front parking lot, because there's only a few parking spaces, and 3 at the arena parking lot closest to Park Street. Staff, obviously, this is new and it was approached to the township, and it's new for us. So we've tried to do as much research as we can in a little bit of time we've done, or we've had to do. But we believe that this is, because it's 100% cost recovery on the actual project costs, the recommendations are included in the report.
Thank you. So I have a motion that PWSR 004-2024 be received for information and that council directs staff to continue with the application for the grant under the Charged for Change Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program and install the EV chargers should grant approval be successful. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan? Councilor Gilmore? Any discussion? Councilor McClellan, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Richard, how long are we tied in with these people?
Through your worship, it's an open-ended contract. It's an open-ended agreement. We can get out at any time down the road, and at any point, we can go with any other different software as well. We actually own the equipment once they're installed, but this is an open-ended contract.
So there's no minimum?
No.
Okay, because the Tesla's one now, they charge you 1 cent per transaction. That's it. That's their charge. So we're talking $500 a month or $600, was it? $50 a month. It was $2,400, was it, for the year? Yeah, plus that's the maintenance on the thing, but the charge out was $50 a month per unit. Tesla's 1 cent per transaction. I don't see it, like, we should be going to the Tesla thing as soon as you think we've been fair with these guys, if it's 1 year, because otherwise we're paying too much money. And one of the charges is worth what they're charging you per charger a year for maintenance. You just go buy a new one. Why would you fix an old one, right? And with the Tesla one, and they will allow you to change the price twice a day. So if we say from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, you pay the higher rate that homeowners pay and everybody else pays, then at night after 7 p.m. till 7 a.m., you can give the discount to the people that are coming here to charge their car. Because if you don't, it's all in the car and it tells you what everybody's charging. They'll tell you that at A&W in Port Corbin, it's free if you go in and get something to eat. So, if you're charging, you're just not gonna sell it. So we'll have these things here sitting there just costing us money. The other way, it costs you a penny a transaction. Doesn't matter how much or how little the transaction. If this guy plugs in for 20 minutes, it's 1 cent.
All right, you have a comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to comment that the consultant is saying that the first year of software and related fees are going to be included in the grant application. So we are going to be getting some decent infrastructure through this process and their consulting process. And if at the time we're not seeing that there's demand for the units at the prices that we're charging, or the software isn't holding up their end of the bargain, we can certainly review alternative solutions, because the heads or the machines that they're installing are open sourced. And so there's various different software companies that we can bring in versus, like, for example, the Tesla, like, you're locked into a certain software vendor. So we can review those options at those times.
Any other comments? Okay. Oh. Yeah, Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
So I know that as a resident, you have high and low peak electricity charges. Is that how we're charged municipally, or are we just a flat charge?
Through your worship, various buildings are on different types of accounts, and this is the tricky part. Like, for instance, gas and hydro, I believe we pay a certain institutional cost at the arena. But we do have variable rates for some of our other buildings. And I believe the community hall and town hall are on the variable rate plan.
So if I may continue, so when you say variable, you're looking at what I would get on a hydro bill, where they have hours of set time, and I believe 11 to 5 is when winter, summer, you do high-low peak swaps. So we're in that band of energy payment, right?
Through your worship, I believe we're on the time of day use at the two structures, the two buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Gilmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anybody know how much it costs to charge one for 1 hour, for instance? Does anybody know what that is?
So it depends on your charger. Some chargers will only give you 37 amps going to it. Some will give you 47, some will give you 80 amps, right? So it's all based on the kilowatts and what it'll do. And if you have a 200 amp service feeding them, so the first one car that plugs in, well, if the charger is rated at 80 amps, will give you 80 amps. The second car that comes will get 80 amps. The third guy that pulls in, they all drop down to 60 automatically. They would talk to each other, so they just drop you down to 60. If 4 come in, you'll be dropped down to 50, right? So that you stay, you'll be a little under 50, so you stay under the 200 amps. And that's all done automatically through themselves talking to each other. So it depends what your charger will give you. So if we're charging 20 cents a kilowatt for a round number, and you can get 80 kilowatts in an hour, it's 80 times 20.
Counselor Anderson, go ahead.
Just so I have some technical understanding of this, but I believe a lot of people are looking at their draw load for hours. So 80 amps would give you 35 miles of travel time faster than a 40 amp machine. So aren't people that drive electric cars looking more at the sum of their mileage that they're getting out? Or I don't know, I'm never going to own one, so I have.
So,
Counselor McClellan, go ahead.
so where I see them working here in town is, somebody comes up here for a vacation. They rent a cottage. The cottage isn't set up for it, but they're driving an electric car. They'll come over here and charge the car for 3-4 hours, go to the library, do whatever they have to do, and then that'll get them back to Toronto or Burlington or wherever they came from, right? Or till they can get to a supercharger and get it done in 30 minutes and get a full charge, right, for 400 kilometers. So that's where I see it, or somebody that's coming home in the winter and they ate up more power than they thought and they got to get to Port Colborne. They're going to pull in here for a half hour or 45 minutes till they get enough to get home, and off they go.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none? Okay, so then I will just call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Moving on to the review of correspondence. C 2024-034, respecting the OEB decision on Phase 1 of the Enbridge Gas 2024 rebasing application. Councilor McClellan, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you wish to make a motion?
Yes, I do. I want to support Enbridge on the repeal of this. If we do away with natural gas, you're stuck with oil, propane, or electricity. So they already tell us, if you listen to them, I don't know that I believe it, but they tell us we're close on the grid. Why do we want more houses? And electricity is way more expensive than natural gas to heat your house with, or oil or propane. So, and then they want somebody to pay for it. So when you move, this subdivision comes in, they won't put gas in because they have to pay to put the gas lines in. It used to be that Enbridge would come in a subdivision, put all the gas lines in for free, and then you just hook up and they're selling gas to you, so they're happy, right? So I just think we have to leave another option open, and propane and oil are not the way to go. So I'd like to support it.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Gilmore? I think you were first. All right. Any other discussion? I think it's probably pretty unanimous. I know I just purchased a home on oil, and I will tell you oil is not cheap, and I'm on a waiting list to get Enbridge brought to my home, and they do bring it to my lot line basically for free, and then I got to pay the extra. But I'm still doing that rather than continue to pay oil, because natural gas is far cheaper than what I'm paying for oil. So, no. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none, then I will call the question of all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, and moving on to C 2024-037, respecting the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee meeting minutes for December 20th, 2023. Councillor Van Fleet, you requested to pull this item of correspondence. Do you also wish to make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the committee wanted me to pull the minutes, just so everybody knows that we're there and we're working. We meet once a month, and the CAO informed me that our minutes will be included or are included on the CIP package. Perfect. So that's what the committee wanted me to bring it to everybody's attention.
So you just wanted to provide information. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to bylaws, I have a motion that the following bylaws be read and passed this 20th day of February 2024. First one, bylaw number 006-2024, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 to amend zoning bylaw number 581-78 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming part of road allowance between lots 19 and 20, concession 3, and part of lots 19 and 20, concession 3 in the All right, so we're not going to do them all in block. We're going to separate them. So we'll start with just the first one, bylaw number 006-2024, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 to amend the zoning bylaw number 581-78 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming part of the road allowance between lots 19 and 20, concession 3, and part of lots 19 and 20, concession 3 in the town, or part of the road allowances between the Township of Wainfleet. So can I have a mover and seconder just on that first one? Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Anderson. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, and that is carried. Okay, now we're going to do the other two as a block. All right, okay. So bylaw number 007-2024, being a bylaw to appoint a clerk for the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet, and C, the bylaw number 008-2024, being a bylaw to establish temporary regulations and penalties for traffic and parking of vehicles on highways in the Township of Wainfleet. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor McCullen, Councillor Van Fleet, any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay. Moving on to the notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none? So I gave notice at our last meeting, and this evening I would like to make the following motion. Whereas Niagara region has a significant rate of addiction and suicide as compared to the rest of Ontario, be it resolved that the Council hereby declare a crisis on mental health, addiction, and housing affordability in the Township of Wainfleet, and that Council advocates to all levels of government to increase mental health crisis and encourage a focus on preventative strategies and pre-dependency intervention on the addiction cycle. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Van Fleet, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing as this is, Councillor McCullen, go ahead first.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a couple of years ago, Pat Stone came out here. They were looking for money so that they could put a drop-in center or a treatment here in town. We never did fund them. It wasn't a lot of money. Well, it's a lot of money to us, but it wasn't really a lot of money. Maybe we should reach out to them and see if we can find the funds to help this happen, because it's the kids, it's not old people that this is happening to. The kids are our future, so if we don't help them, God help us, right? So maybe that's something you can reach out to Pat Stone or somebody from staff can and see if we can get that going. We have an empty building over there. Maybe we can make that available to them now. So,
any other discussion on it? I will just say that I support this because, you know what, everybody in this room and anybody watching at home definitely knows somebody that suffers from mental health, addiction, and everybody in this room, and again, understands the housing affordability crisis that's not just happening within Wainfleet, it's happening across our country, right? You know, let's be honest, most of our youth would never be able to afford to even purchase a home in our township, let alone some of our neighbors. So that's why I brought this forward, and that's why I wanted to support it. So thank you, everyone. If there is no other discussion, I will call the question of all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, so I now have a motion that council now move into closed session to discuss an item under Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. One item, a potential disposition of land matter. B, an item under Section 239-2K of the Municipal Act 2001, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. One item, a negotiation matter. C, item under Section 239-2D of the Municipal Act 2001, labor relations or employee negotiations. One item, a matter pertaining to employee negotiations. D, item under Section 239-2B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. One item, it's a personnel matter. E, minutes of the closed meeting of council held January 30th, 2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McClellan, Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So we'll now move into closed session.